Thanks for joining us for video number 5 in our series with John Falbo, Stop the Insanity, Underground Secrets for Parents to Dominate the Junior and College Tennis Process. And this video number 5, we are going to talk about coaching fit. John Falbo, what's that about?
Well, again, thank you for having me, Lisa. And to everybody out there that's joined, thank you. You couldn't be with a better person in Lisa, and you couldn't be with a better service. By joining, you've gotten probably in my mind, the best value you could get in tennis. So thank you for joining premium members. Lisa, I think back to this series and everything we've ever done, and it's a pleasure to be here. So as far as oh, cool, very cool.
Yeah.
As far as coaching, this has come up in every video that we've done and will do. It is an unbelievably important variable. And you said something the last video. I believe it was number 4. Is that right? This is number 5.
This is number 5.
You said something that really struck me. You said the coach's job is to influence, if you will, the way I took it is persuade the recruit to come to the school. And sometimes that can conflict with what's best for the child, the parent, and the family, or parents and family. You couldn't have been more right on the money. I've alluded to this before in a few of our earlier episodes. And about 5 years ago, the KU team here in Kansas, literally for like 10 years straight, they were like 1-11, last in the Big 12, the doormat, a real embarrassment in terms of what they were purported to be as a quality Division I program and what they actually were. And Coach Todd Chapman came in. It was you talk about like just completely gutting the house and having to start all over again. That's what he had to do. Now, in that process, over those next 3+ years, he had to have players, and he was recruiting, and he recruited a lot of improper fits. He was not the right fit for the players, which he didn't know because he's an honest guy. He would have never done that on purpose. He would have never affected students in a detrimental way, or student athletes. And the kids coming didn't know, and the parents didn't know. And about 2.5 years ago, we practice most every day for the last 4 or 5 years, and I was quiet. And about the 17th, 18th recruit that had to either transfer or, something had to be done, I was like, you got a problem here. You got a real problem. There's identification is not being done. And quite frankly, you're a really bad salesman. Like we had to be honest with one another. Like, that's not your forte. You're not a good salesman. So that needs to stop. You're trying to bring people in that are not a good fit for you, and you're not a good fit for them. So we've gotten things worked around the last 2 years. Now I'll give you an idea how important it is. This past year, they won the Big 12 championship. They beat Texas to win the Big 12 championship. They were top 10 in the country most of the year. They had the number 1 doubles team in the nation at one point in the year. And last year, they had the number 1 singles player in Division I in the nation. Now, you can't do that unless you have happy players. You can't do that unless you have like a fit with you as a coach and as a player. And the one single thing that I told him and that I kept harping on every day in practice is you cannot recruit young women here that do not have the work ethic that is in line with your work ethic. It will not work because it will become apparent to them, and it will become apparent to you. And now you've gone through so many people where the work ethic didn't line up. You must prioritize. You must hierarchically choose in this way. And you must alert them. You must be honest with them and say, look, I'm coming to you as a recruit because of your work ethic. I'm coming because, and then you work from there. But he hadn't identified his primary characteristics that he needed. And he didn't know how to communicate that with the parents and the players, the children, to then kind of assess and get the right fit. And that's what, as a parent, this is what I would tell all you parents tuning in. And if your children tuning in, that's even better. You got to understand, not every coach knows themselves. They don't necessarily, it doesn't matter how much success they've had. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter how good of a player they are or were. They may not know themselves. And if they don't know themselves well enough, they aren't going to know what to communicate with you as a parent and a child. And then you're on really shaky ground. You're shaking your head. Are you?
I mean, it's so true. It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's huge, because I think parents go in with a subconscious expectation that the coach is going to know themselves. The coach is going to know my child. The coach is going to know what he needs.
Right.
And that's not necessarily the case. As a parent, you have to be like a detective. You have to not only know your child and know them very well, you have to know yourself very well, but then you got to identify, I'm not saying quickly, but certainly over a several month period, you got to identify, what is this coach like? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Where are they? Do they really know themselves? Are they transparent and honest with me? Are they giving me a really, really kind of subpar sales job? Do they have my best interests at heart? How are they functioning? What mode of operation are they using to make their choices? How do they identify success? Are they even going to be here for very long? Or are they kind of a climber where they want to get out and go somewhere else? There's a ton of things you have to identify about the coach that's going to drastically impact your child's experience as a student athlete.
And so what are some questions and signs that prospective student athletes and parents can ask and look for?
And I like to use common sense, Lisa. You know that. And how long have you been here? Where were you before that? What are your main goals for the squad? For each player on the team. What are your goals personally? This is, a lot of parents never really interview the coach.
Right.
It's like assumed. Yeah, it's assumed. And hey, I'm telling you, parents and children, they need you every bit as much, or not more, than you need them. You have to interview them. Just like we talked about content on the internet, everybody needs content. Well, every college program needs players. You were saying you still get questions into the summertime before the beginning of the next year. Coaches need players, and I think we talked about this in the mindset video that you gave away to everybody. There's this passive kind of subconscious approach where the parents are not fully interviewing the coaches. And even as a player, as a 16, 17, 18-year-old player, children are bright. Tennis players are bright. Take your list of questions in. Hey, what are your goals for the team? What would your goals be for me as a player if I came here? Training wise, what do the training days look like? What is the training table where we eat look like? What do the dorms look like? Like what are your goals for us in practices on a daily basis? If he can't show you whiteboards with his goals, or he can't show you notebooks with his goals, you know a lot about that coach. You can get a real sense of how organized that coach is, how caring that coach is, how willing they are to communicate by email or by phone. All of these types of things that you can interview and ask the coach. And if you're eye to eye with the coach, or you're on a Skype or a Zoom call with the coach, first of all, if they're not willing to do that, that will tell you a lot. Right. And then once you do get on with them, you can tell an enormous amount looking into somebody's eyes. You can tell an enormous amount just talking to somebody. And to not communicate like that, I think every parent would do themselves a disservice and do their child a disservice. It's huge. Just communicating with them.
Can I add to your list, just from the parent side, some things that we didn't know to ask? And I had a lot of people trying to guide us when we were going through the recruiting process. So we did have some good questions that we asked, but there were several things we missed. And
Okay.
there are things like, do you have team dinners? Does the coach invite the team into his or her home on a
Great.
regular basis? What happens at holiday time if we have matches and we can't go home to be with our families? Does the coach facilitate a holiday meal together? How does the team travel? Do they travel, by bus everywhere and minivans? Or does the team have so much money that they're flying everywhere? Where does the team stay when they're on the road? How are meals handled on the road? I mean, these are all questions that, again, like as you said, tell you a lot about the coach. And if the coach can't answer them, that tells you a lot too. And these are the types of details that really have a huge impact on a child's college tennis experience.
Yes, and with the college hunter, you brought up a great point. I get on the phone with them. If I have to go and see them, I go and see them. And I'm the kind of guy. I'm like, hey, look, we're gonna. The emperor genuinely has no clothes at that point, because we're gonna talk truth and we're gonna get right to it. And to me, it's like every parent should never, ever be hesitant or apprehensive about writing down and asking whatever question comes to mind. You just brought up, multiple, and there are derivatives of what you just brought up as well, where you can sit and have these kind of conversations, and then there will be offshoots, questions of questions of questions. And please, I would encourage every parent, every child watching this, ask more. Some people say, well, there's some stupid questions. Well, it doesn't matter, because every question will either lead to a better question, or it will give you data and info that you didn't have before that you can then put. But if you don't ask the question and you're not of that mindset to communicate like that, I can tell you when I go in and talk to a coach or coaches, it is direct, it is businesslike, it is, look, where are you at with this? Where are you at with this? How many people have you had to leave? A lot of times I'll know, because you know, from you being in the business and the environment,
right?
Pretty much know what's going on. You know how coaches treat players. Like you get a good feel. But again, direct questions. It's no different than a business meeting at that point.
Right.
And I would suggest conducting it like that.
Well, and a lot of families assume that once their child is playing in a college tennis program, that all the coaching is provided at no cost, all of the equipment is provided at no cost, all the clothing is provided at no cost. And again, that's not always the case. And
Correct.
These are questions that need to be asked. And, as you just said, there's no stupid question. Every question can hopefully lead to a better question. Every answer provides data and will help a family make an informed, quality decision that hopefully, if all things line up properly, will avoid the need to transfer and will avoid having the child get burned out and give up playing. And
yes, and unnecessary stress.
All 4 years. We want
Yes.
them to go and have a positive experience.
Yes, and it's not necessary. Like what you've been through, I would not wish on anyone. And what I went through, we've learned a lot, and we're going to be able to help a lot of people. But it doesn't need to be that way. It's like it can be very simple. I'm sitting again in my cafe here in Lawrence, and my dad told me something really early. He's provided so many lessons before he passed, and one of them was, John, if you have the economics of a business set up, you can make a lot of mistakes. And if you're set up accounting wise properly, you can kind of fail your way forward and fail your way quickly into a successful situation. But if your business economics are not proper, you are leveraged in a way that you will most likely fail, because the economics will be against you. And what you were talking about, like I spent 18 months negotiating this lease for this place. And there were multiple times that it looked like it wasn't going to work out. But what I got at the end of it was something that whether we have 3 customers in here or whether we have 300, I won't hold 300, we're small, but whatever number of customers we have, it's going to succeed because the expenses are right. The utilities are right. The lease is right. Everything, like, we're going to be okay no matter what because we don't have to have an avalanche of people in here. And what you said about, look, is the equipment paid for? Is the clothing paid for? How are they working the whole financial package? Because the common sense question are, what are my sunken costs here? Like, whenever anyone watching this goes and sets up anything, it could be a phone plan, it could be a mortgage, it could be anything. Everybody wants to know their costs, and everybody detests hidden fees because it's disingenuous, it disturbs trust, and it affects the entire relationship. So it's like, hey, what are my sunken costs? What are my real expenses here? Because if it's a full scholarship, to me, that means we don't pay anything. That means everything is covered, everything is taken care of. If we want to send them some spending money, we send them some spending money.
Right.
And if it's not a full scholarship, what are we paying for books? What are we paying for tuition? What are we paying for room and board? And what additional fees? I don't want to hear 6 months from now that, hey, you owe this because we got to do this. Like, who didn't let me know that at the beginning? You know? And that'll tell you, like, in talking with a coach, it's like, if you see their practice schedule and you see their goals for each player and you see their goals for themselves and you see all of these different, and like you said, like their travel mode of operation, this is how we do it. You're going to be able to see all of these different checklists. And at some point, you're going to be able to assess that coach and say, hey, well, he's got all the expenses lined out. He'll give me a copy of it. I'll have record of it. So if anything crazy comes up, you know, hey, I didn't know about this. This is not a given. You can't tell me, hey, well, you know, everybody does it. I don't care if everybody does it. I didn't know about it, you know? And so getting things clear, and you'll be able to tell a lot about the coach and their organization, how they know themselves, how they know their players, their programs, their mode of operation, their systems that they have in place by communicating and asking these questions. And then you get a real sense for where they're at and really what kind of coach you would be walking into.
Right. And the coach is responsible for setting the culture of the team. And so,
yes, indeed.
You know, understanding, as we talked about in the last video, personality, then we can assess whether this coach has created a culture that coincides with, works well with our child's personality, and whether it's going to be a situation where our child can thrive. And that's what we're looking for.
Great. Just well said. There's nothing to add to that. You hit it right on the money.
Well, John, thanks so much for doing this one. This was I'm losing count. We're on number 5, so we've got 3 more videos coming after this. If people want to find you, again, can you give us your website?
TheCollegeHunter.com. It's TheCollegeHunter.com. And like I say in every video, we're not interested in pressuring anybody. We're interested in finding a right fit. And if all that happens from these videos, Lisa, is that we get to give away some free books that help people, you know, and that people join your site, and that people get more educated. That is the key. Because with more data, and more education, the perspective broadens. You know, everybody then they have more permission to do the things that intuitively they've kind of always wanted to do. And then they have some standards that are set to say, hey, wait a minute, I do need to be asking the coaches what's going on. Yeah, I do need to be asking about this, and I do need to be going on these official visits. If we, over the coming years, can help educate everybody so that people have better situations for themselves as parents and their children, everything becomes worth it, because we're serving people. And that's, to me, that's what it's about.
That's the goal. And I want to just reiterate, because I'm not sure I've said this since we started doing these videos, John, but you and I are both huge fans of college tennis and
Yep.
huge fans of tennis in general. And so by helping to educate these families, our hope and our goal is to make college tennis be the best version of itself, because it's attracting the right players, the right families to stay involved with the sport and help grow the sport. That's what it's all about for us. And the other stuff is extra, you know, people joining my site, people working with you through the College 100. That's ancillary to growing the game of tennis, to raising the profile of college tennis and making it the best version it can be.
Oh, I agree completely, because it goes both ways, Lisa. You know, it's like college tennis has to serve the parents and the children, and the parents and the children have to serve college tennis. If everybody is serving everybody else and contributing in a way where everybody's more aware and everything is more transparent, then you're going to have better choices and you're going to have happier people within the process, and they're going to be more inspired. And then the whole thing, then you're in a quality cycle at that point. You know, you're not in some kind of deficit cycle. We want everybody in a very positive, inspired cycle where everyone, from the coaches to the student athletes to the parents to the fans, everyone is having an inspired college experience.
Absolutely. Well, John, thank you so much. This is video number 5 in our series. Video number 6, our next one is entitled Commitment Fit. So hopefully you'll join us for that one next. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you, Lisa.